What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. The last video, what we were doing was finishing up the whole framing. If you guys been following my IG, I've been creating the angles. What that is doing is in between the framing, that's where the sheet metal is gonna be laying on. So what I've been doing is basically taking a lot of measurements this whole time, taking measurements, cutting them, and then meeting them at 45 degree angles so they kind of meet at a square. They're not all perfect by all means, because the saw blade that I'm using is just a cheap Amazon saw blade, so I had to like grind some of them just to kind of get it somewhat flush. But anyways, whatever, that's what I'm working with. And let me just show you guys what it is. I didn't want to show you guys what I was doing because it's just repetition, just cutting the angle irons to whatever measurements I needed and then putting them at 45 degree angles so I can make the box. So let me just show you guys exactly what I was doing this whole time, and so that you guys have an idea if you're looking into doing this. Okie dokie. So all right, so basically, if you guys can see, or like I said, if you guys been seeing on my IG, I've been posting a little bit of it, of my completion of mocking up the angle irons, just to kind of show you here. So you can see how I did the framing, and then what I'm doing here is these angle irons. I'm just basically making a square, filling up the square, and that's where the sheet metal is gonna lay into. I obviously have to weld these in. I'm gonna be stitch welding them inside. Once I level them and I clamp them nice and tight, and then I'm gonna hit it with the welder. This one was a complete square. This one close to the trans tunnel, all you had to do was like a C, because I'm not gonna put an angle iron towards the transmission tunnel. That I'm just gonna have the sheet metal kind of flange onto the transmission tunnel. I'll just bend it up a little bit and just weld it onto there. Same thing on this side. I'm gonna do a little bit of an explanation on the ones closer to the seat rail, along with the front rails, to the front squares, so you guys can see what my method of how I'm gonna be doing it. Let me just show you guys this side, same thing. Obviously, we got the ones closer to the seat rails, they're individual, but the ones going towards the front, you can see that they're a little bit longer. What I did is I went underneath the front seat rails, right? So I can go ahead and cover that front seat rail underneath, because it's exposed right now. If I was to make the square here, what will happen is later on, I would have to go underneath the car and weld, like, just square from the sheet metal, and just weld another patch here and there, just so I can cover that so it's not exposed. Doing it the way I'm doing it right now, I believe it's just gonna have that flat surface on the bottom. So when you look underneath, which no one's gonna be looking underneath, but for me, it's gonna be just straight, like a flat sheet metal. You'll see what's gonna happen is once I weld these on here, the sheet metal that I make or mock up, it's gonna slide here underneath here. I might have to cut a little bit and then go all the way to here. So it's gonna be one square that goes here. Same thing on this side. It's not gonna be a square, but whatever the shape is that I'm gonna be covering, it's gonna be square, go underneath. And what I had to do is I had to drill out this spot weld that's here. And what happens is I flange this up so that when I have the sheet metal, I'm gonna lay it right on top of where all these spot welds are. And that will it'll kind of like even out with the floor. And same thing with this side. It's gonna go underneath the seat rail here and then go all the way to here. And what I'll do is I'll kind of make like a flange to go up and over here so I can weld it on here. The main goal right now is to weld all the angle irons together. That's what I'll be doing first. And then I'll be worrying about the sheet metal. All right, so as you guys can see, now the boxes are all welded. So I got those in, did those, and up front on the sides there. So like I said, I still gotta do this side, but this side is complete, so we're getting there. All right, guys, real quick, pretty much all I'm doing is really just welding all stuff on there, you know what I mean? I don't want to just like put the full video of just me just welding all the angle irons. Let me go ahead and show you guys pretty much so you guys can see, add a little primer onto it. But now it's all a matter of just working on mocking that sheet metal up. So I got some cardboard. I'm going to be using that, trace out the squares, and then I'll go ahead and cut it out. All right, so as you guys can see, all the little angle irons in between the rails are done. Same thing on that side. All right, so now that the angle iron is complete and welded onto the floor, I went ahead and the sheet metal that I purchased, I had two pieces. I went ahead after I did all the trace outs and the cutouts for the sheet metal. I took it to work and I just went ahead and cut it to whatever shape that it was when I used the cardboard. So yeah, I just traced it out, I cut it. So now it's just a matter of making sure like it kind of fits in the area of where it's going to be sitting. Take it out again, send it out to a shop that has a bead roller, so they could bead roll it for me, all the sheet metals, and then do some punches along the edges so I can plug weld the sheet metal. So let me just show how that looks right now as far as like when I cut it out. All right, so there it is laid out, all the pieces. Now it's just a matter of test fitting, making sure, you know, everything is good. Obviously, all the edges are not straight. I use cardboard to trace this out. So, I mean, I don't have like, you know, the best tools to make straight edges or whatever. So I use whatever I got to go ahead and do the job. So, so yeah, let me go ahead and start putting this inside the car and seeing what I have to grind so I can fit everything perfectly in there. All right, so far everything is going smooth. With the test fitting, it's not gonna fit 100% perfect. I had to like grind some of the edges, you know, to kind of get it in to fit properly. So let me go ahead and just show you guys what I was working on. We're almost there. It's pretty much looking like a floor again. This square was fine. I had to just kind of round off the edges to kind of like fit a little bit better. The ones on the trans tunnel, this part itself, as you can see, I had to flange it onto the trans tunnel because I'm going to weld it onto there. And just so that you guys know, I'm going to be plug welding onto the floor, onto the angle iron. So that was good. That was good. Like I said, I just have to kind of make that flange onto the trans tunnel. And then let me show you here, kind of explain these two right here. Starting off with this longer piece here. This was fine, you know, going in. Like I said, I just had to make some adjustments on there to fit it right. But as you guys can see, it's not sitting perfectly inside, right? The reason why is this sheet metal is going underneath the seat rail. If I bend this now and to try to make it so that it, you know, kind of molds or folds onto the original flooring, when I pull it back out, it's not gonna go because you know, this is blocking it. So what I'm doing is I'm waiting to actually, when I'm ready to plug weld the sheet metal in, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and work on this to flange it up and lay it over the original sheet metal. So same thing with this one. Obviously this one was a little bit more difficult out of all of them because this has a lot of like different shapes and how it's going to go underneath and merge with the trans tunnel. So this one has this longer piece. Like I said, it merges onto the trans tunnel here. I wasn't flicking you guys off, sorry. As far as this, it's going along the angle iron. Same thing, it's gonna have to wait until I'm ready to weld so I can make the actual ledge over to the OEM flooring. And as far as the sheet metal, same thing. Underneath here, there's plug welds that go from this trans tunnel to the original flooring. So I'm gonna go ahead and overlap that when I'm ready to plug weld it. But I'm not gonna do that part yet because like I said, I wanna make sure I plug weld everything else where it's gonna be in positioning. And then when I'm getting closer to welding these, that's when I'm gonna start working on getting that into its correct fit. Let me go ahead and just show you guys as well underneath so you guys can see that. I just kind of wanted to show you guys how it's starting to look like. And as you can see there, that sheet metal, how it goes there above the trans tunnel where the transmission now is. So it's kind of looking like one flooring. And then same thing, like how I was explaining, how it's gonna go above on the angle iron and then just flange right over the OEM sheet metal. All right, so I didn't get to show you guys the passenger side, but you guys get the picture from me doing the driver's side anyways. I went ahead and start mocking up the triangles in the back, as well as doing the rear, I would say gussets or rear supports that go to the last rail of the floor. It's gonna be welded onto the rail and onto both torque boxes on the driver and passenger side. So I kind of wanted just to show you guys that, what I've been doing and mocking it up. And then, like I said, once I get the sheet metal back, it's pretty much, I'll be welding this whole thing together. All right, guys, as you can see, we're under the car, and I just kind of wanted to explain these triangles and how they're gonna be welded, as well as for the gussets or those torque supports. So first, starting off with the triangles, I mocked the triangles up. So the sheet metal is gonna go inside into the interior of the car. And then I'm gonna be plug welding it from the inside underneath. I'm gonna be plug welding the triangles here onto the rail. You guys might be wondering also what's these cutouts for, and that's for the gussets. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. This support, what it's gonna do, it's gonna be welded on to here and welded directly onto this rail. And it's gonna go and weld onto the torque box area of the car. So just to kind of explain, let me see if I could do this here. So basically, it's gonna be like this onto here. It's kind of hard to do it with one person right now, but you guys get the picture. It's gonna just be welded like that. Let me just show you on the passenger side, because I have a little bit more reach. Sorry. So like I said, same thing. It's gonna be from there and welded to the torque box. It's gonna be welded right there, all the way across to the torque box. So it's just gonna give it a little bit more support onto the flooring. So just kind of wanted to explain that and show you guys that. And I already got all this mocked up. So like I said, only thing is just gotta get the sheet metal back, and it's onto welding. So all right, guys, what's up? I just wanted to follow up with you guys. Finally, we're at the stage where we're going to be welding out this sheet metal onto the car. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys what I use to hold the sheet metal, and yeah, and we're ready to go. Check it out. All right, so as you guys can see, sheet metal is laid out. I have them being held by the Clecos, 1/8 Clecos copper. They definitely help out first time using them, and they're pretty sturdy. They keep the sheet metal really close to the angle iron, so that I can go ahead and start plug welding. So I fixed all the gaps on the trans tunnel, and on this area you can see how the sheet metal is like kind of flanging over the original one. It's gonna do that just cause, but it all smoothens out and you know, make it look like it's one piece again. So all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with this side first, going ahead and doing the plug welding on this side, and then I'll do the passenger side, and the floor will be done as far as the welding part of it. Still obviously have to work on the triangles and underneath the car, so still a lot more to go, but just kind of want to, this is like the main part I've been waiting for, is to actually have the sheet metal already welded. So it's been a long time. So all right, let's get back to work. It was a long day, but I finally ended up welding the floor, plug welded, and put the last minute angle irons that go on to the front seat rail. And then I spray some Metch primer so that I can dry, and then next will be like doing the seam sealer and filling up all the gaps and stuff like that with the seam sealer. So but yeah, the floor is welded. Take a look at it, and yeah, it's gonna be this video. This is what I wanted to finish up with welding the floor, so we can go and start working on the final stages and go from there. All right, guys, so you see, plug welded the floor. Starting to come to life. Next, like I said, will be the seam sealer, fill out all the gaps, and little by little it's gonna start looking a lot better. And then, you know, paint it so it looks like a finished product. All right, guys. Well, before I end this video, I had to go ahead and show the last welding pieces to the puzzle, which was doing the bottom end. I did not seam seal it first. I wanted to weld the bottom end or the rear of the car underneath the floor before I go ahead and start seam sealing. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that the triangles are welded, as well as those rear supports or gussets that were made on both sides, so you guys can see that. Then also, like I said, I ended up welding underneath the floor on the bottom section, just welding any gaps that I had, as well as cutting and trimming the rest of the trans tunnel so it looks like a flat surface. You guys can see that. Completely flat. So there it is. The final touches are going to be finally, like I said, now is doing the seam sealing, undercoating underneath, the sound deadening, and all that stuff, and then the flooring is complete. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you guys ever have any other questions in regards to doing this flooring, please feel free to hit me up. This was definitely an experience, learning, and I don't know, maybe one day I'll end up doing the LS years to come, and I can perfect this, you know, make it look better. But this was definitely fun, and hope you guys enjoyed it too, and hope you guys are excited for what's to come, because I'm definitely going to be working on the front end of the car, and that's what I'm excited for, the next phase, and you guys will get to see that. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Peace.